Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Something Something with Eric Newman. This is our third episode. We're rolling, baby. I'm very excited. Thank you for joining me here in Times Square. I'm excited specifically to talk about today's episode. I think I say that every week, that I'm specifically excited to talk about this week's episode. But if I say it every week, then I'm not specifically excited to talk about any episode. I'm just excited to do this podcast. So I'm just going to say I'm excited for another episode this week. Today, we will be discussing a very prominent topic in life and the dating community, specifically alpha versus beta males. And before I go into any of this, I just want to refresh everyone's memory of what the definition on Google is of alpha versus beta. Alpha, used to describe someone who is strong or powerful and who likes to be in charge of others. Beta definition, someone who is perceived as weak, passive, submissive, or lacking in confidence, particularly in a male context, and is contrasted with alpha male. Well, first of all, I just want to shit on Andrew Tate for a second. I think that's a great place to start. I fucking hate that guy. I really can't stand him. Before I get into all the reasons I hate Andrew Tate, despise that fucking guy, I want to say, first and foremost, I don't really love the contrast of those definitive terms, alpha versus beta. I don't believe anybody is one specific thing. I think that we all can exemplify, a majority of alpha qualities if we are alpha, or a majority of beta qualities if we are beta. I think in every aspect of life, there are moments where an alpha becomes a beta or a beta becomes an alpha. I mean, I don't know any person I've ever met in my entire life, even the most alpha men I could ever think of, that didn't display at some point a passive or submissive quality in some degree in some situations. So, but again, we're just sort of categorizing based on patterns and consistent behaviors. Given that, I would strongly identify as an alpha. However, I'm going to get more into that later, and we'll sort of break that down. But let's go back to Andrew Tate for a second. Andrew Tate has gotten a lot of popularity for being known as someone who's the ultimate alpha and the dominant man. I don't know, using my analytical brain and sort of just researching and studying him and listening to him for as long as I have, not willingly, he just pops up everywhere. I see him as no more than a guy who just had been rejected by so many women in his childhood and probably far into his early adult years, that he's done everything he can to use the money he has made, and he's undoubtedly a very successful businessman, to try to get back at women, to hate on women, to disparage women, to sort of just put them into the category of wife versus whore. But yeah, I see nothing, I don't see him as being any deeper as someone who just got rejected a lot and sort of never let go of that. The pain that the rejection has caused, never really took the time to figure out, what meaning it really has in his life and how it reflects on him as an individual and as a person. So I think it's just easy to be like, fuck these hoes, they use you for your money. And by the way, there's things that he says and points that he makes that I find myself agreeing with, but I do see him coming from a place of greed. And I don't like that, and I disapprove of it. But let's talk about it for a second. So I had a friend of mine who I grew up with, who was a huge Andrew Tate fan, not surprisingly at all, and sort of the same approach of, I'm an alpha, and these hoes ain't shit, and all that. And he would lie about every single, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually talking about this. Finally, a platform where I can talk about this. I knew him since I was 13 years old. And he every single girl he would get involved with or start talking to or start dating, he would become whatever it was that she was. So he dated a Brazilian girl for a little while. I swear this guy went out and bought an entire wardrobe of Brazilian gear. He had a Brazilian soccer jersey. He would wear Brazilian armbands. He would have a Brazilian hat. He would start learning the language. He would start actually speaking Portuguese to try to impress this girl who was a Brazilian. And at the same time, he would be like, I'm the man, she knows her place. And I'd be like, this is displaying everything but you being the man and in control and in charge. You're literally pretending to be somebody else and adjusting your entire identity to impress this woman that you barely know, who doesn't really have any deep meaning in your life to any degree at this point. So I don't understand how that's alpha. It's like fake dominance. It's not real. Like, I feel like alpha, I mean, I know we just went over the definitions, but alpha is strength and it's dominance, and you dominate with strength and with vulnerability. Vulnerability is the most dominant display of emotion. It's, this is who I am, this is how I feel. So I don't understand how we got lost in translation here somewhere along the way of just that, like, pretending to not get hurt or to be impenetrable or not affected by anything is alpha. Alpha is being honest, and being honest in a way that keeps your self-respect intact. I think this is where it sort of becomes a gray area. If you're texting a girl and she doesn't text you back and you text her 19 times, you've crossed the line of no self-respect. And so that's definitely not a dominant or alpha trait. But, hitting a girl up and telling her, hey, I like you and I want to spend time with you and I want to take you out, that is dominant. And that is alpha. This girl that I started seeing, we hung out once, and then on the second date I was like, I wonder what I want to do. It's funny because I think, like, historically, or years ago more so, I would have really scrambled. I would have asked my friends, what's a great second date spot in the city? Like, what do you think she'll like? This is her personality. This is what she does. What do you think would fit in? And this time I just went, I want to go see the Looney Tunes movie. I really want to see the Looney Tunes movie because I was looking at the AMC. I joined this, like, monthly membership for AMC theaters, and I was looking at the AMC list and I saw Looney Tunes, this new Looney Tunes movie that came out, and I just went to Rotten Tomatoes to check, the reviews, and it got a very high review. It was like in the 90s or something, and every critic was like, Looney Tunes has done it again. And Looney Tunes knew what they were doing 20 years ago, and they still know what they're doing. And I was hyped. I was like, fuck. And I thought of the girl, and I was like, oh, I want to take her to go see Looney Tunes. And she was so excited about it. And on paper, Looney Tunes doesn't seem, there could be arguments against it, like that's so childish, or like you're making her think you're immature, or why would she be into a guy who likes cartoons, or whatever. And I don't actually truly like cartoons anymore, but I just thought it would be a fun date, and I just wanted to see it. So I asked her, and she seemed really hyped about it. I don't think she likes Looney Tunes. I doubt she's like, I don't think she's like a huge diehard Bugs Bunny fan or whatever. But I think she just liked the idea that I was excited about it and was like, I want to spend time with him. On paper, that doesn't seem as sexy as like bringing her to Nobu or like Bond Street Sushi, or whatever the hot spots are. I don't even really hang out at the hot spots. But it signals to a woman, I like things, I can make decisions, and I want you to join me for the things I like. And that's honest. And that's what I consider to be, so let's like stop using maybe alpha, beta. Maybe we use like dominant versus wimpy. Maybe that's like a better contrast. But guys have this notion that like you have to take her to a beautiful, expensive restaurant and pick her up by limo. Listen, I've dated very wealthy women, famous women, whatever. And my friends will be like, dude, you got to do it up, man. You got to get like an SUV, and you have to bring her to one of the most beautiful restaurants in the city, and you have to like really show her and prove yourself. I'm like, she's gone on this same date for years with the same finance bro who picks her up in a nice car and takes her to a beautiful restaurant and has the same boring, bland conversation. Obviously his golf membership comes up before the appetizer comes to the table, and And, you know, he talks about his private equity job and the yacht that he's currently looking at, and she's heard it a million times, you know, it's boring. And women have told me that. Women who are very wealthy or have had this type of lifestyle for a long period of time have told me, look, I like it, but it's the same thing over and over. So, you know, then I meet her and I go, I want to take edibles and sing karaoke. Some dingy ass, shitty karaoke room. You know, I'll get us our own room because, you know, sometimes I splurge on dates. I'm not going to brag, but some dingy ass karaoke room in Times Square with fucking sticky booths, that red sticky booth that just needs to be revamped and hasn't been in like 40 years, and you don't even know where the stickiness is coming from. Is it cum? Is it alcohol that's left there too long? I don't fucking know. Maybe it's a combination of everything. But it's not about the karaoke room, it's about the experience. It's about execution of, hey, I'm a man, I wanna do karaoke, I haven't done it in a long time, I feel like it'll be fun. You seem like a person that I feel like will enjoy the experience with me, and would you like to go? I don't want to eat at fancy restaurants. I mean, when I go on vacation, sometimes I'll spend a lot of money on vacation and go to like some nice fancy steakhouses or lobster places or whatever, but like, I want to go to a diner, man. I love diners. Man, a classic New York City diner, if I was a billionaire, that wouldn't change. We go to the diner, we get a couple omelets, we share some fries, I get unlimited amount of dipping sauces, we dip them in, you tell me that I have ranch dressing dripping down the side of my face, I clean it up, you know, after we laugh about it for a while. That's what I want, ladies. I'm not saying it's not about compromise. If I'm dating somebody and she likes a fancy restaurant, that's a relationship compromise. It's dating. It's you do this for me, I do this for you, we do things together, all that. But I'm not gonna just do it to impress you. And I think that's where alphas, particularly guys like Andrew Tate, have it wrong. Like, you spent your whole life, from my understanding, you know, being like an out of shape kid who didn't really have any game with girls and got rejected a lot. And then you buy these fancy cars and yachts and think that you've solved the problem, but the girls are still rejecting you. They're still rejecting you. They're accepting your money and I'm not saying there isn't a girl out there who's dated Andrew Tate who has fallen in love with him. No woman I've ever met, I think, would. But doesn't mean that there's not women out there who truly fall in love with Andrew Tate. But you're not solving the problem. You're not. You wanted women to want you, and now you're rich and buying material things for them to like and want to be part of. But there's no proof they still like you. I think the biggest issue with like pop culture and sort of the way like alpha and beta have been, you know, displayed or used as an example in TV shows and movies is like the strong physical alpha who's the captain of the football team, and the nerdy, you know, skinny teenage filmmaker like a young Woody Allen is the beta. And I think qualities, I mean, there's the physical aspects of alpha and beta, but I don't think that's usually what people are. I don't like, you can't control the body you were born into. You can change it because it's 2025. If you're born with a football playing body, that doesn't make you an alpha. If you're not being honest about who you are, what you want, and have the drive to do it. I've noticed this a lot, like when dating, I've just gone through so much trial and error. Like, it doesn't matter what you ask a woman to do. If you don't want to go to a fancy restaurant, don't go because your friends are like, this will impress her. Beta shit, dude. I don't care if you were captain of the football team. Beta shit. I'm dead serious. I can ask a girl to go see my new favorite porn at a porn theater. I don't know, are they still around? Somewhere in Times Square, there's definitely porn theaters here, right?
There's one a block away from here, but I think it finally, the last few times I've walked by, it was closed.
We'll reopen it. But I don't, like, as long as you're making her laugh while you're texting her. Like, and again, porn theater is probably like just like an extreme example, but my whole point being like a woman wants to spend time with you when she really likes you, and you want a woman who wants to spend time with you when you really like her. And I think being honest about that and communicating that, however you choose to do, is dominant. And because again, going back to my buddy who I've been friends with since I'm 13, we're actually not friends anymore. He'd be like, I'm gonna rent a Lamborghini and pick this girl up and take her around Miami. And then after that, I paid his rent for 4 months in a row. I'm not kidding. He literally hit me up and he's like, dude, I need some rent money. I need help. I was a good friend, but fuck. Like, what an alpha he is, you know? Got that big Lamborghini, taking some girl around, then asks your buddy who you've been friends with for 20 years to pay your rent. Like, she's not gonna be impressed when she finds out that you spend your last $500 on her. That's not attractive to women. And I think like deeply insecure men, and this is going back, and I think we have to add, like, I see being deeply insecure, dishonest about insecurity as because everybody has insecurity, I have tons of it, but I think being dishonest about insecurity is a very beta, because that is passive and that is submissive. You're being submissive to your own truth and your own emotions. And by the way, if you have a ton of money and you want to spend it however you want, and you want to buy fancy yachts and you want to bring girls on them, fuck yeah, dude, that's your money. You can do whatever you want. To try to look like the man just for the sake of impressing women is not alpha at all. And I see Andrew Tate as being that guy. Also, the biggest wimpy move, in my opinion, I'm trying to, again, avoid saying beta. I know I keep saying, I'm trying to avoid saying alpha and beta, and I've said it throughout the entire episode so far 100 times, and I probably still will, but like, to me, like, the most beta move is texting a girl like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do tonight? If you're in a relationship for a year and you want to say that, of course, but like in the early stages of dating, women, when women say yes, I want to go out with you, there is an underlying message of make me an offer. That's it. And that's what you have to do every time, guys. That's a very like dominant move. You ask a woman out, she says yes, make the offer. Here's the offer. Let's go see Looney Tunes and then we'll go get dinner after. That's an offer. She doesn't have to say yes to the offer. She could say, hey, my whole family got murdered when we were watching Bugs Bunny when I was 10 years old, and now it's triggering to go see him in theater. Okay, great. We won't go see Bugs Bunny. Or hey, I'm not really in the mood for movies. I don't like movies or whatever, which we're not going to work out anyway, but it's like fine. Or like I've been to the movies 5 times this week. I don't want to go. Like, could we do like an earlier lunch? Or that time doesn't work for me. There's always negotiation, but come with an initial offer, guys. Like, don't. It's just lazy. It shows no initiative, and you're dull, bro. Make a plan. Go to a comedy show hosted by Eric Newman. And I think also going in this, like, putting yourself in a situation that's a little like look. All women want to do on dates is laugh, dude. That's it. They just need to fucking laugh. Like, I've had women that I haven't talked to in 3 months who will just call me up and be like, I just thought of you. I like want to laugh. And I'm like, cool, and we'll FaceTime, and sometimes it'll end up leading to more or not. But women really, truly want to laugh. And everybody wants to laugh, but like, women want to laugh with you. So like, what does a sex shop or a porn movie do? It puts you in a position with this high tension where you could just like, either get really awkward, or you could be like, how fucking funny is this dildo? How hilarious is this sex toy right now? Look at this. Like, it's fun. It doesn't matter. You're also like showing confidence in this of your own sexuality. You're saying like, hey, like, you don't be a fucking creep about it. Don't try to like fuck her in the dressing room of the sex shop. But like, just having this dialogue and making it easy and making it fun and making it light. Like, I bring up sex very quickly when I'm starting to talk to a girl. Not sex like I want to fuck you, but just like sex jokes, like things like, because sex is it's still, no matter how relevant and popular it is in modern society, there is always some level of shame or insecurity attached to it in a very deep way. To just sort of set this example of like, we can talk about sex and we can joke about sex and we don't have to have sex right now, but just the fact that we could have an open dialogue about it or whatever and like laugh about it, that ultimately just brings people closer together much quicker. To take an edible with a date and go to a sex shop or go to like some whatever porn theater still exists in New York is fun, because you're like, this is crazy right now. Like, look at that position. That's insane. You know, you don't have to have sex after. The problem with guys is that they make sex this really serious thing. Like, and sex is serious. I'm not discounting the fact that it is, or can be, or to what degree it is in different situations. But that same friend, the Brazilian jersey wearing, Lamborghini renting broke friend that I had for a long time, he would always, you know, I would go on like a third date with a girl and he'd be like, well, you have to fuck her tonight, bro. If you don't fuck her tonight, you're a pussy. And they think this is an alpha mentality. They think they're coming from a place of being an alpha and being dominant. Like, you gotta fuck her tonight. How about I just enjoy my company with a woman that I'm taking out and we see where it goes? And maybe I won't wanna have sex. Maybe I don't feel, if you're a man who's in touch with your emotions, you realize at some point that your emotions are also tied to sex, and that maybe you're not feeling the connection, or maybe there's way too much trauma here that you don't feel would serve her or you to jump into bed with her. Like, there's a million factors. So there's this like thing that like alphas have put on, this expectation or this pressure that alphas have put on, you know, relationships or dating scenarios, that like by the third date you have to fuck her, she's not going to be interested, or she's going to think you're a pussy, or she's, you know, it's just like I hate it. And men have made it much worse. Men are responsible for making it much worse. That's actually a tangent I didn't think I was going to be touching on, but I'm glad we went there. Men of the younger generation now, a lot of Gen Z men, and I think it's because with the growing popularity of feminism, whatever that means to you, and women being much more career oriented and sort of, and it's wonderful for women to have come into this place of being, you know, more independent and financially independent and emotionally independent. And it seems like every other girl I talk to doesn't want to have kids anymore, you know, but I'm not loving that, because I want to get you all pregnant. But I think like, here's why I feel bad for sort of Gen Z men in particular. You know, I come from a family of like very tough, like Jewish men who escaped the Holocaust. My grandfather, Nathan, you know, led my grandmother out of Poland, then Germany, then Israel, former Palestine, to settle here in New York City and Queens. And, you know, he was a really dominant guy and really dominant in business. My grandmother, who I knew for 18 years, basically said 4 words to me the entire time I've known her. She was just really quiet, and my grandfather was like the dominant, and those were their gender roles. My grandfather handled everything. You know, he took care of all the finances and made all the decisions, and my grandmother was just submissive and quiet and wanted that and felt comfortable in that role. My mom and dad were completely different. You know, my dad had serious mental illness. He was bipolar schizophrenic, but my mom was the decision maker. You know, he was sort of, my dad was somewhat dominant as a personality type, but just a little more sensitive and had a gentler touch. And my mom was very loud and sort of was forced to assert dominance in the household, given the fact that my dad was in and out of mental hospitals and couldn't really be like a stable, constant father figure. So she did what she had to do to keep us alive. Shout out to my mom. I love her very much. We're very close. But she didn't want to. I don't think my mom would have chosen that role. I think it sort of just became obvious that that was the only option to be a good mom and keep our household together. But, you know, I gotta be honest, I do judge households where the woman is completely dominant and the man is sort of submissive and just does what the woman wants. Whatever you say, honey, she doesn't respect him. And then, you know, the children will often grow up not respecting the father because they witnessed that their whole life. They witnessed a man who just kept saying, whatever you want, honey. It's become clear to me that I can't really be with a woman whose mom was the complete dominant parental figure in the household. It can be equal, for sure. There could, you know, man and woman splitting the finances, splitting the responsibilities, splitting the decision making, sure. But to have the woman be the dominant in the household as far as decision making goes and display those masculine alpha qualities, when the man is displaying beta submissive wimpy qualities, it makes for a very rough dynamic for me dating wise. I remember one time my almost fiance, who I've mentioned a lot on here, we were playing some like TikTok challenge, like couples challenge, and one of those dumb games, and it was like, who's the alpha? And I pointed at me and she pointed at her, and I looked at her and I go, listen, that's not happening here. And I don't really think you want it to happen either, but I think she had grown up in a household where, because your dad wasn't the dominant alpha, you don't know another identity. You don't know where to be, where to place yourself in a relationship with a man who is dominant. So the male-female dynamic is a struggle. It gets very messy. And, I remember one time we were on a plane and I was madly in love. We were 3-4 months into our relationship, and she said to me, we were talking about her dad, and she said something like, my dad is a great hang, but not a father. I loved her dad, like on a personal level of just like talking and on a social level of just talking and hanging out and having fun. I loved the guy. I really loved him. But I would be devastated if I ever found out that my daughter referred to me as a great hang, but not a father. Like, I want my daughter one day to think I'm funny and cool and pleasant to be around and a good hang. I want all those things. I do want them. But I need my daughter to respect me. And I would gladly sacrifice her not thinking I'm cool or funny to respect me, if that's what it took. And I don't think you have to make those sacrifices. I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think you can be cool and pleasant and fun and nice to be around, but also, at the end of the day, have her know that you are the decision maker in her life when she's a child, when she's coming of age. Ultimately, I believe your daughter, and this is coming from a place that I don't believe myself to know everything at all. I haven't been a father yet. I don't know exactly what that feels like, but again, I'm witnessing behavior. My brother has a daughter. I witness that behavior constantly. I've been in a million relationships. I see what behavior works and what doesn't, and I need my daughter to understand that I'm here to protect her, and that although I'm sometimes wrong or misguided or like any other human being is at times, every decision I make that comes to her life as she's growing up, she needs to trust, even if I'm wrong. I think but both boys and girls need to be guided at an early age by a dominant male figure. And I'm not including same-sex couples in this. Again, like, every perspective I have is from what I still consider to be a limited worldview, in that I've never been in a same-sex couple. I don't know the exact dynamics romantically or sexually or, in a parental way. I can't begin to understand that. My dad wasn't there at all times. He loved me like crazy, but he was mentally ill, and he was away a lot. And, I spent a lot of time with my mom. Would I have not had such an obsession with the Spice Girls at 12 years old and cried when my mom wouldn't buy me their CD if I had spent more time with my dad? Probably. Would I have not collected stickers until I was 13 years old? By the way, not like Looney Tunes or like Ninja Turtle stickers. I had princesses and I had rainbows and I had all that shit. If my dad was there every day, would he have, beat me until I stopped collecting stickers? Hopefully. But I spent a lot of time with my mom, and so that had an influence. And I think I had to really work hard to sort of establish who I am and which dynamic I felt most comfortable with in a relationship and whatever. And I think as you're growing and getting older, you're kind of wrestling with those dynamics and wrestling with who am I, how am I, what do I want, what do I expect, what makes me feel comfortable, what makes me feel uncomfortable as far as relationship dynamics go. But my almost fiance had a dad that she didn't respect as a parental figure, and an older brother who she didn't respect as an elder sibling. And then I was shocked when she didn't respect me at the end. When we had a conflict and she handled it with no grace and no kindness and no respect, I was surprised that I wasn't more surprised. I saw all the clues. I remember I was at the kitchen of her house one time and her dad was talking about her growing up, and he goes, yeah, by the time she was 13, she was telling me to fuck off. And I was like, and that's okay, that your 13-year-old daughter, and I know that there's that angsty teenage attitude or whatever, but she tells you to fuck off the first time, you tell her never talk to me that way again. Not, oh, she's just a daughter, she's just mad right now. No, 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 no. So I felt like I had to almost like in our relationship combat all those childhood experiences and learned experiences and ideas of how she relates to men that were ingrained long before I got there. And I'm not perfect and I made mistakes, and you know, that's sort of what everybody's gonna do in a relationship, but I don't understand how you won't assert some level of dominance over your own daughter. Like, she needs that. She needs discipline. People need discipline. And I was talking to my therapist about this recently, how at some point a lot of dads, and this is what, and sort of like being a beta or being passive or submissive as you're growing up or as you date people will carry you all the way through, you know, the most important relationships in your life, which are your life partner and your daughter, son, you know, whatever. But I was talking to my therapist about this. It was driving me crazy. And we were talking about how, like, you know, a daughter will turn 18 years old or something, and then like, and now she has boobs and she's a woman, and her own dad will almost be like afraid of her or intimidated by her, like sort of the way he was with women when he was that age. And now all of a sudden she's this woman who has come into her sexuality and has all these like sexy features. And it's weird, like the dad almost gets like, oh, whatever you do, whatever you want to do, daughter with boobs now. Like, and it's like, no, like she's an adult woman. She needs you now more than ever, man. Like, it's like they're intimidated by their own daughter's beauty. I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand it. So the guy, you know, the father will tiptoe, and then the daughter loses more respect for her own dad because the daughter senses that the dad is intimidated by her, and she's like, why is my father, who's supposed to be this like dominant male figure in my life, scared of me all of a sudden? Like, it's weird, dude. So anyway, let me get back to this younger generation of men that I feel sorry for. And I feel sorry for women too, who are dealing with these men, because what's happened was there's been this, men are so scared of getting canceled. Oh my God, if I'm too controlling, if I'm too alpha, you know, that's gone out the window, man. That was last generation's men. This generation's men are more passive and allow women to do whatever they say they want to do. And if we don't, we're controlling, and women are going to cancel us and say we're controlling, and fuck being canceled. Stop being scared about being canceled. What are you going to get canceled from? Seriously. And what, like, oh my God, the women around the office are going to start talking about how I'm chauvinistic or I'm misogynistic. They don't even know, half the time when women say those words, they don't even know what they fucking mean, dude. They're just saying it because their friends have said it and they've heard women that they respect say it. They don't know that they're not even, oftentimes they're not even processing the full, like, you know, the full definition of whatever they're trying to refer to. Like, they're just using it. Like, creepy is another one. He's creepy. I say all the time, I'm like, I am creepy. If your definition of creepy is a man who wants to procreate on this planet and will be honest and open about that, not in a way where you're like, look at your ass, like that's creepy, like, or like a woman passes by and is like, damn ma, like I would do crazy things to you. That is creepy, because that's just on a human level just disrespectful and distasteful. But I'm gonna make this very clear right now. I want to procreate with a woman that I want to procreate with, and I want to have a lot of sex, and I'm not shy about that. I will always be a gentleman, you know, to the best of my ability and knowledge, but I have a couple strong female friendships and I really value them, but I'm not here to just like, you know, I'm here for a reason, and a lot of it's not only sexual, there's a lot of emotional benefits to being around women. And to be honest with you, I enjoy the emotional and mental aspects of being around women whose company I like as much, if not more, than the sexual aspects of female relationships. But yeah, I do want to fuck. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that's not a goal in my life or something that I enjoy. So my buddy tells me, this is the worst, dude. So I keep coming back to this idea of this new generation of beta men, of Gen Z men, beta men. What's the difference? My friend tells me that his little brother, who's 22 years old, just got out of college, is dating this girl that he met in college. They both moved to New York. They decided to live together at 22, which is in almost every scenario a bad decision, but whatever. Don't want to be judgmental, make your own mistakes. Or maybe it works out. I don't fucking know. I'm 37 and single. I do not have all the answers. Or am I 37 and single so I have all the answers? Anyway, tells me his 22-year-old brother moves in after college with his 22-year-old girlfriend. The 22-year-old girlfriend starts a job in marketing. She starts spending time with a guy at work. They're on the same team, so there's an excuse, right? Oh, we're work together. He knows something's going on. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but it makes him feel uncomfortable. He doesn't want to be looked at as being controlling or, overpowering or a toxic male, so he just lets it slide. What happens? Well, exactly what I predicted. She ends up spending more time with the guy. One night, he's home. She goes to the guy's apartment. She doesn't want to be a liar or dishonest, so she tells him, to some degree of honesty, that she just wants to go to his apartment to hang out. They're talking about work. They're working on some meetings together and some projects, whatever. He's at home literally shivering in bed because he's texting her. She's not responding back to him. 2 a.m. she comes home. What happened? He goes, what happened? She goes, oh no, we just talked about work or whatever. And, no big deal. But, he's a great guy. And anyway, he tries to ignore it. He's literally crawling out of his skin, so upset, so hurt. But again, doesn't want to be looked at as controlling because that's so important to not be looked at as controlling or not get canceled or whatever. Anyway, a month later, she ends up fucking the guy in his apartment, comes to him. They're crying. She feels guilty. He's crying. He feels devastated. They break up. Now she's with the other guy. What he doesn't realize is that when he purposely ignored talking to her about it or communicating with her about it or setting boundaries, he lost more respect from her. He thought that by not communicating that or not looking controlling, she would respect him more. But he did the most beta thing in the world, which was, and by the way, this was a guy who was on the football team, which is hilarious. He did the most beta thing in the world, which was be dishonest, not let your intentions be known, not set your own boundaries, and just pretend like everything's okay, which resulted in the breakup. Like feminism and Me Too movement and all this, I obviously think they're great things when handled in responsible ways by responsible people. And I think just like anything else, when people are power hungry, they will exploit these movements to gain personal power. I think women have done this a lot, and I think men have been scared of it. And I think that makes for a very messy dynamic in a relationship and will oftentimes result in the situation that I just brought up with my friend's brother. And listen, I am not controlling. When I meet a woman, I do not try to tell her how to act. I do not try to tell her what to do. I do not try to tell her how to behave. She's an adult. She's a person that I have chosen to bring into my life and has chosen to be in my life and has chosen to let me into her life. But I will make it very clear what behaviors I will tolerate and not tolerate. If you want to date me, you are not going to a guy's apartment to hang out, even if he's a friend of yours at work. I don't trust men. I know men too well to trust men. I don't trust their intentions. I am still trying to figure out how trustworthy you are, since this is the early stages of a possible relationship or whatever it is. I won't tell you what to do. If you want to go to a man's apartment that you barely know who's a friend at work and stay there for 4 hours, you will not be my girlfriend. We will not continue to date. And those are my boundaries, and that is what I consider to be unacceptable behavior in a relationship. And circling back to what I was saying a little bit earlier was, that's an alpha quality. An alpha quality is, this is what I want, this is what I expect, and this is what I will put up with, and this is what I won't put up with. And a beta quality is, this is what I want, this is what I expect, but I'm not going to say anything because I'm too scared to. Because I have a fear of disappointing you or making you upset or being looked at like I'm, controlling or anti-feminist. Again, like it just stems from fear. Like we talk about fear a lot. That seems to be one of the themes that keeps coming up. It's fear. It's being scared to lose the person at the cost of your own principles and expectations. And that's wimpy. And you can have, going back to the Andrew Tate argument, I don't know how he is in his relationships. I just see the persona he's chosen to show. But, going back to that point, you can have all the football scholarships, you can have all the yachts, you can have all the cars, you can have all the mansions. If a woman is doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable and you fail to communicate that or have the balls to say something, you're not an alpha, bro. Listen, sort of coming back to this point, I spend a lot of time with my niece. I love her very much. She's 5.5, and she obviously, like any 5-year-old, makes a lot of really bad decisions and has no ability to think things through. And, that's part of just being that age. She knows that she shouldn't run into the street because a car could hit her, but she doesn't know necessarily the nuance of not standing too close to the curb because maybe a car could swerve. She's not thinking of it from the car's perspective. And as an adult and someone who's had more life experience, it is my job, if I'm babysitting her or watching her that day, to be like, step over here right now, don't stand there. Not, oh my God, I'm not gonna tell her not to step there because it'll make her cry or hurt her feelings. I don't give a shit if she cries or it hurts her feelings in the moment. I'm trying to protect her life. And I think that guys have to really understand the bigger picture here and understand that the dominant point of view and the dominant decision is to look out for the well-being and to look from a bird's eye view and not, oh my God, she's gonna be so upset with me in the moment. I don't care if my niece shrugs or looks at me with this hateful, disappointing look. It's my job to protect her. So if the cost of that is to make her be mad at me for 5 minutes before she forgets and then I just get her a toy and we're all good again, then that's okay. I don't have that much more time, but I think I want to spend the last segment of this talking about you choose how people treat you in your life. Again, if my niece thinks she can I watch how my niece is with my mom. My mom will just give her anything to shut her up. Like if she's crying, she wants a slice of pizza, she gets the slice of pizza. If she starts crying more, she gets a piece of cake. If she starts crying more, she'll get gummies after the piece of cake. If she starts crying more, she'll get ice cream after the gummies. And my mom just keeps going, oh God, I don't want to deal with this. I just want her to stop crying. My mom doesn't realize that the crying is stemming from the idea that she knows it will get her the thing. So no matter how many things you give her, she's never going to run out of tears. She knows what to do. Is she upset that she's not getting the thing she wants? Sure. Is some of it a show? 100%. I've witnessed guys who are in 30-year marriages say, happy wife, happy life. I hate. Let me tell you something, man. There is no expression on planet fucking Earth that bothers me more than happy wife, happy life. What does that even mean, dude? That means just say yes to everything she asks for and she'll be happy and then you'll be happy because she won't be nagging you? No. Giving her the things she wants all the time at the cost of you feeling uncomfortable or spending money you can't afford or whatever is what has caused more of the nagging. Actually, on a psychological level, the nagging, look, I don't think any reasonable person wants to be a shitty, annoying version of themselves. I don't think women take pride in being the version of themselves that are constantly screaming at their husbands, calling them a fat piece of shit. Look at Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's one of my favorite examples where Jeff and Susie are in a marriage and Susie just calls him a fat piece of shit all the time. And he'll just be like, whatever you say, dear. And, you know, that type of aggression from his end comes out in him cheating on her all the time or whatever, which is, I mean, obviously we have a terribly unhealthy dynamic here in this relationship. Women will respect you more if you put your foot down. They gravitate towards guys who have self-respect and know what their limitations are and know what they're willing to bend and what they're not willing to bend. Like, I just feel like it's very important to establish dynamic because, you know, what happened was she called him, you know, in the scenario of Jeff and Susie on Curb, I'm sure like the first year of their relationship, she probably wasn't talking to him that way. And then maybe the second year, she said, you're a slob. And he just went, ha, I'm a slob. And then year 3, she called him fat. And he goes, ha, I'm fat. Even though he's pretending to laugh. Nobody feels good about being called fat. So he just was pretending to laugh and was fearful to talk back to her. And as he kept getting more and more scared to talk back to her, she kept elevating how mean she was to him. Because she knew that she could keep getting away with more and more and more. That's what people do. They'll just keep, it's a very normal human reaction to see how much you can get away with. A couple disparaging remarks here and there early on in a relationship, and you, without you addressing them, will result in 30 years down the road of your wife just yelling at you, screaming at you, calling you a piece of shit, calling you fat, basically taking away your manhood completely until what happens most of the time where she meets a guy she respects more and leaves you, you know, cheats on you with him or leaves you for him. People want to be the best versions of themselves. You know, we've heard that, it's trite and it's cliche, but she makes me the best version of myself. You know, I don't think a woman feels like the best version of herself when she's calling you a fat piece of shit and yelling at you and screaming at you and being frustrated at you all the time. I think she feels like she's the best version of herself when she's laughing and fun and kind and tender and nice. So she will cheat on you, the guy who's allowing her or making her. I think men are fully responsible for this. Women will try to get rid of the version of themselves that they feel is cruel or unkind to be the version of themselves that they feel is nice and empathetic and fun. And if you represent making her that bad woman, she will want to leave you for eventually a man who brings out the best qualities in her. She's not cheating on you to be with him. She's cheating on a version of her she doesn't like and that she's become and that you've let her become to be a version of herself that she believes she will like more and will respect more and enjoy life being more. Being an alpha is being honest and being who you are and communicating that when you need to, and being a beta or wimpy is being the man who just ignores and is fearful and just throws money at a problem because they don't have much more value in this world or don't feel they have much value in this world than their you know, money and yachts and boats and cars and nice clothing and fancy restaurants. So be the alpha, be honest, be good, be kind. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, our third episode of Something with Eric Newman. I just want to give a quick shout out like I do every week to my DP Zoran, my producer Johnny, the studio producer Ali, and everybody here at Zoom Studios. I'm Eric Newman. See you next week for another episode I will be specifically excited about.